Welcome to the 13th episode of the ongoing series, The 10 Lost Tribes in Jewish Consciousness, here on Sfarim Chatter. I'm Nachi Weinstein. This episode of the series moves the series forward into the 19th century and to another part of the Jewish world, specifically the land of Israel and the Talmidei HaGra. The beginning of this episode, Rav Yechiel Goldhaber gives an overview of the 10 Lost Tribes, so kind of a chazara, if you will, for those that have been following along with the series, and with some new information as well before moving on to the specific topic of this episode, Rav Yisroel of Shklov and the Talmidei HaGra and their search for their fascinating search, I should say, for the Bnei Moshe. The corporate series of this series is, as always, Gluck Plumbing for all your service needs, big or small, in New Jersey, with a full service division from boiler replacements, main sewer line snakeouts, cameraing main lines, to a simple faucet leak. Gluck Plumbing Service Division has you covered. Give them a call, 732-523-1836, extension 1. And if you do, please tell them you heard them on the podcast, and thank them for sponsoring the episode in the series. To sponsor an individual episode for this series, please email me, sfarimchatter@gmail.com, or check out the links and information in the show's notes below. And that's the same if you'd like to sponsor just an episode in general on the podcast, or you would like to support the podcast. You can also subscribe to the Sfarim Chatter Substack, YouTube, and especially the Sfarim Chatter WhatsApp chat, where I post, it's an admin-only chat, we're posting new Sfarim, books, sometimes book deals, and things like that. So check out the information in the show's notes below. And finally, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, and you can rate and review it as well. Apple, 24/6, Spotify, wherever that is. And enjoy this episode in the series. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Sfarim Chatter podcast and another episode in the series, the ongoing series here on Sfarim Chatter, the 10 Lost Tribes in Jewish Consciousness. On this episode of the series, I'm going to be joined once again by Rav Yechiel Goldhaber, noted historian, lecturer, tour guide, Mechaber Sfarim, articles, and he's been on the podcast before on a number of different topics, and we'll be discussing, he wrote a lengthy article, but I don't think it's fair to call it an article. It's basically a book about Rav Yisroel of Shklov, the Pas HaShulchan, and the Talmidei HaGra and their connection to the Aseret HaShvatim and the Bnei Moshe story. A fascinating episode in the Aseret HaShvatim story, and especially in Jewish consciousness, as something that happens in the 19th century. So thank you, Rav Yechiel, for joining me once again.
Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom. So let's start off, before we get to Rav Yisroel of Shklov and the Talmidei HaGra, and who he was, let's start off with the Aseret HaShvatim. I know there's other episodes in this series listeners are familiar, but if you want to give an overview of, as it pertains to Rav Yisroel of Shklov and this story,
Yes.
the Aseret HaShvatim, and especially the Bnei Moshe, who those are.
Very interesting a group in the Aseret HaShvatim. So the story I could tell in 2 minutes. That winter, 1831, Rav Yisroel of Shklov sent out a shliach. His name was a Baruch Mipinsk, to find the Aseret HaShvatim. He ended his journey in Yemen and Yemen, and 3 years later, in 34, winter 34, the shalit, the mayor of Tzana is the capital of Yemen, killed him, and that's it. And that's he didn't finish his job. He didn't find the Aseret HaShvatim that he was sent for, and that's it. So that's the story. So what did he want to find? So he wants to find the Aseret HaShvatim, the Bnei Moshe, and another group called the Bnei Rechav. Okay. So the Aseret HaShvatim, we know that in the 6th, on the 7th, on the 8th century, the Klal Yisrael was separated for years. There were 10 Shvatim and 2 Shvatim, and that's called Malchus Yisrael and Malchus Yehuda. And when Ashur conquered the Middle East, they came to this part of the world. They wanted to go down to Egypt, and the Aseret HaShvatim didn't let them go through, and they took them away to exile. This is the Geulas Aseret HaShvatim, and the pasuk. There's a few pasukim that tell us where they exiled them. By the way, there were 3 exiles, and that's it. But it's not that's it, because there's a lot of problems going on inside the psukim. There's a lot of steers, because in Divrei Yomim it's mentioned that they came back. And then Yirmiyahu brought them back later on. There's all kinds of steers going on, but then in Chazal there's a major machlokes in Mishnah Sanhedrin if Asidim Lachzer or Ein Asidim Lachzer. And then the shittas that they came back together with the Shivas Tzion, that there's a few Gemaras when Ezra came back from Bovel, from Poras, so another few Shvatim came back with him, and this is a major problem. What's going on, and it's going even so far that even the Amoraim are looking for the cities that they were exiled. Why did they want to know? Because there's a shaila in Eben Ezer. If someone marries a goy, it could be that she's a grandson of these shvatim. So it could be mamzerim could come out from it. So they paskened that's it. They took them out of Klal Yisrael, and there's no shailas of mamzerim. That's more or less in 1 foot, in 1 minute, the sugi of the Sales Shvatim. I have over 30, 40 pages on these polemics going on. Okay, then what are the Bnei Moshe? The Bnei Moshe is midrashim, all kinds of midrashim. That Moshe Rabbeinu had a bunch of grandchildren, or shishim riba grandchildren, and they were very frum. And the Gemara says because they were very frum, they didn't go on Golas, and they left to the Midbar, to the Arab, to the place today it's called the Arabian desert, and they were sitting there for years. Okay, now I'll continue that this Medrash Agadata has a hemshech in the Islamic history. There's the dozens of Torah Shebal Peh, there's the Quran is the Torah Shebechsav. Then they have a Torah Shebal Peh. But the dozens of Sfarim in Torah Shebal Peh that it's called the Hadith. That the Quran mentions that Muhammad in 6 to 8 he was good with the Jews in Khaybar. And then he asked them they should join him, and they didn't want, and they killed, and his people killed them all. They were talking about thousands of Jews. They killed the men, and they forced the women and the children to go over to Islam. Now, mamash, in these days we have Nebach, all kinds of uprisings of Islam against Yiddishkeit, and they mention this surah in Quran, Chayba al Yahud, that's it. We have to slaughter the Jews. Okay, so there were Jews also left over there. So Rav Yisroel of Shklov is sending the shliach to find them, because they're also in the Seres HaShvatim. They're from Moshe. And then there's another group called Bnei Rechav that's mentioned in Tanakh and Chazal. These were descendants of Yisroel, Moshe's nephews. They were also very Yirei Shamayim, and they ended up also in the Arabian desert. And they're very big tzaddikim, and they're musmochim. They have smicha from Sanhedrin, and so we're searching for them, and they have to come back. Okay. So these are the groups that Yisroel of Shklov is looking for, searching for.
And just to be clear, that the Bnei Moshe and the Bnei Rechav, like you say, we're calling them part of the Seres HaShvatim because in the Midrashim and a lot of what we hear about them, they're associated with them. They're living with by the Sambati, and they're together, so they get put together.
They have no shaykhs. They have no shaykhs. They weren't exiled by the Assyrian Empire, but because they're in the same area, so it's easier to find them. Okay, now the second topic, the second major topic, the Sambatyon, because everybody knows. Yeah, where the Aseres HaShvatim, if we're going to find the Sambatyon, we'll find them. So this is based on the Yerushalmi. It's not in the Bavli. Yerushalmi, there's a minor where the Aseres HaShvatim. So there are two places, and then one is in a city that's in Ashur. The second place is behind the Sambatyon, and the third place is behind the how do you say Ananim?
Behind the clouds?
Behind the clouds. Yeah. Behind the clouds mean that they're covered and we can't fetch them. It's a mushal, yeah. Okay, be the Sabbatin could be also a mushal, but we know Rashi says that the Sabbatian throws stones every 6 days, and Shabbos he goes to rest. So l'chayra it's not a mashal. L'chayra it's a metzias, and that's the reason that we can't fetch them, we can't find them, because it's under such a mysterious area. Okay, now we'll soon get to the people that looked for the Aseres HaShvatim before Bnei Shklov, but I want to mention before that the Aseres HaShvatim ended up in Ashur. Ashur is in Mesopotamia. That's today Iraq, or a little of Iran, you could say. Yeah, but why did the Yisroel send his shliach to Arabian desert? It's not in that area, Bichlal. And he had to end up in Yemen, in Tema. That's for sure. Has no shaykhs with the Assyrian boundaries. So this is because he got all kinds of rumors and information that the Bnei Moshe and the Bnei Rechav are more in that direction towards Yemen, and not in the Assyrian area. Okay. It's very hard to understand, because he wanted to find the Aseres HaShvatim mainly. So why is he sending him there? So we'll soon get to answer this problem. Okay, who looked for the Aseres HaShvatim? Who B'chlal mentions the Aseres HaShvatim after these Gemaras? Because there's a gap. There's a major gap. From this Bavli and Yerushalmi, no one mentions them. Not in the Chuvas from the Goine Atzisoil, and not in the Chuvas from Goine Bovel. We don't find, no one mentions them. They're forgotten. Okay. So the first one is a famous figure called Eldad Adoni, around 1,200 years ago. Someone came to Kiran. Kiran is a famous Jewish city today it's Tunis, in South Africa, and he said, I'm from Shevet Dan, Ben Yankov, and we have a whole Shevet of tens of thousands of soldiers, and we have gold and silver, and a whole kingdom that's going on someplace in the world. Okay, and also we have Yiddishkeit. We have the whole Kimat, the whole Tanakh, and we have halachas. What does it mean, halachas? We have our own Talmud, our own Gemara. Now this is very, very fishy. How does it have a Gemara if they left before? 150 years before the Churban, yes, there's no Torah Shebal Peh written. So, in my eyes, the whole thing is a little not a little. It's funny. So I would say that this is a fantasy. The whole thing is a fantasy. The Eldad Adoni, but I can't say it's a fantasy because we have today we have a few evidence that there was such a person, Eldad Adoni, of Eldad, going back mamish, not in his years, but I could say 100 years after him or 50 years after him, we have already evidence that there was such a person. And we have tshuva from Nissim by Yankiv, that he was a goyen in Kiran. And no tshuva, they mention him, and there's a tshuva today in the Gniza. And then there's a famous Sephardic Bal Medagdik of Yemen and Janach that also had connection with South Africa. And he mentions that the Yehuda Korayish, that was then Mamish in that Kufa, mentioned a word that Eldad mentioned, a word in Hebrew, a special word. Okay, so we can't say it's a fantasy, but I would say that Eldad was a liar. Okay, we're going to go like that.
And I want to jump in, Rabbi Yechiel, that there was a full episode earlier in this series about Eldad, and just to reiterate here, the Ben Ezra and Shemai's Beis Chav Beis says, don't believe stories like Eldad. Yes, so you have, what to rely on. Who says don't rely on him?
Yeah, but what bothers me is it's mamish hysteria. Or he says that we don't have the whole Tanakh, and over here he has all kinds of stories that only in Midrashim that are very, very late, and he knows about them. Yeah, it doesn't go together. It doesn't work together. So that's one of my major problems. I would push in another idea that I have, but that's not the topic now. It could be, why did they go in, or later on everybody bought the story, because this is a answer against the Karoim. Because he mentions Talmud, yeah? There's no Talmud in Bayis Rishon, and also in Bayis Sheni. So this is an answer against the polemic, against the Karoim, or even against the Christians, that our Messiah is going back. It's going back. Okay, the next one is Rameir Schatz. It's also, in my eyes, a fantasy, but everybody learns in the Cheder, Shuas, all the Malamdim in every Talmud Torah, in every school. It tells over the story that there was in Germany, there was a Gzeira that they wanted to kill out the Jews from the city, and they had a debate, and no one of the Jews could have stand against the Galach, and they brought from the Ever and Sambatyon, they brought someone to solve the problem, and he won the debate, but he had to go. Oh, so how did he come? He came because it's Pikuach Nefesh, because he can't go through the swim through the Sambatyon, only Shabbos. But the Meir Shas, and he was the shliach, and he had to stay there, and he stayed there, and he died there, and he's buried there, and that's it. And then he wrote Akdamas because of this ness that he saved the Geula. Okay, so in my eye, this is one big joke. The Meir Shatz is buried ad hayom hazeh in Ramayza, and he didn't only make Akdamas, we have today 100 piyutim amim. Yeah, that the story goes, he made this Akdamas. Yeah. We have over 100 piyutim from Meir Shatz. It was a very choshev, a chazan, and Ramayza. All the Rishonim are rely on his halachas. Okay, so
and to jump in what you said, Ramaiza's Worms in Germany, and that's the oldest, I think the oldest grave at all, and even non-Jewish in Europe, as I recall, but definitely oldest Jewish cemetery is the cemetery there. As you're saying, his grave is there. So
and it's still standing. Yad Hayom Hazeh, it's still standing. Then we have another one. By the way, my feel is that whenever there was a tzara, so the Jews came up with this idea of a Sefer Shloter because they're gonna rescue us, not today, tomorrow.
Yeah, and you see this also earlier in the series. I did an episode on Prester John, which is someone that you mentioned, and the Christians, they have their own analogous situation.
Problems. They have their problems with
He's going to save them.
With the Crusaders. Okay, so they bring themselves a different version. Then we have David Aroveni. Also in my eyes, it's also a fantasy, but there's a letter from him that he came. He came from Shevet Ruvim, and he has a whole thousands of Yidden on his Shevet, and he wants to bring Mashiach, and the Sultan killed him. That was in the 16th century. And then we have, in the 17th century, we have Menashe ben Yisrael. Okay, that's already closer to us, and we have more information. Menashe ben Yisrael was an ancestor, was from the Marano family. His parents weren't Yiddish, and he was a Baal Tshuva, and he was very, very intelligent, languages, and Nigla, and the philosophy, and then one day he says we have to bring ourselves to Shvotim. He's friends with all kinds of Christian popes and writers and political people. And one day he bumps into another Marano and Tazinos, and he bumped in an Indian group in South America. And they said that they ran away from him. They said Shema Yisrael, and they're Jews. So we have a group from Shvatim. And this he tells for Menashe ben Yisrael. And then Menashe ben Yisrael is working very hard. England, until now, until the 17th century, banned the Jews from the 30th century. No Jew could live in Britain, and now a few of the Maranos ended up in England, but the Maranos are not Jews. So Menashe is looking to how to open the gates. Now in England, not only England, France, and also Germany, there's the millennium, and there's a major wave going on that the world is going to collapse. And Jesus is going to come back, and there's going to be a new world, and that's the Moshe Mashiach in their eyes. And they're all going crazy. So he wants to use this to bring back the Jews that should be able to sit in England, because we have to know that most European Jews are in a very bad situation. Yeah, the Jew can't live in most of the countries, and even if they could live there in ghettos, it was very, very hard. So he thought maybe we have a new piece of land, also America, to be able to settle. And they have. I'm not going to go into all the details. At the end of the day, he tells them this story, or he sells them this story, and he prints books, Nishmas Yisrael and Teferes Yisrael, and he. Versteht sich, and ended up with nothing. It didn't end up with nothing because in his house they opened the doors, and it was a very big mile for the Eden. Okay, and then the next one has shayches with Rav Yisroel of Shklov. Yisroel of Shklov wrote 7 letters about this parsha. And these letters are fascinating letters. I worked on this project for over kimat a year and a half. I'm talking about an ocean of information going on in this project. The whole project was 3.5 years, but the Hagdama for this is a very wide sugya. So I'll try to make it short as I can.
And Rav Yechiel, also, I want to jump in one more thing.
Yes.
I think it would also be worthwhile to tell the listeners about Rav Yisroel of Shklov, who he was, where he was from, because the other ones they kind of heard of, but this one, I don't think not anyone, but listeners maybe not be familiar with him.
Okay, I'll finish with this shliach, Rebor God, because he was the one that the B'Israel relied on him, and then we'll speak a few minutes about the B'Israel. So, in 1646, we know that the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael send out every Monday and Thursday shlichim to raise money for the Yishuv. They didn't have their own income, and that's how the Yishuv was living for hundreds of years. So in 1646, they sent out a shliach called the Bor God, and he came to Iraq, and he came back to Yerushalayim 4 years later, in 1650. He brought back money and also a very interesting piece of news that he found there evidence of a Seres HaShvatim that came from Eva Sambatian or Eva the Arabian desert, that's Saudi Arabia, and he told them all kinds of stories. He brings back this headline to Yerushalayim. Meanwhile, what happened in these 4 years? The famous Gzeira Tachta, that's 1648 and 1649. What happened? The Tachtat choked the Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael because the Yishuv is living from the European money, and now Europe is choked by himself. Yeah, hundreds of keilas were burned down. They have no money, so no money is coming in. So they sent out in 1650 a very famous Rav Makubal from Nosson Shapira to raise money. If not, the Yishuv was going to go to sleep and fall apart. And he came to Italy. Italy was safe from the Gzeres Tachtat. The Tachtat was in Ukraine and in Europe. And over there, he finds a letter of this guy that the Bor God met. He left a letter from the Seres HaShvatim, from Shevet Ruven and Shimon, a letter for the Yoshvei Yerushalayim. Very interesting letter. Wow! So we have a document, the first time in history, a document, not all kinds of stories. Yeah, ish mipi ish. We have a document, a letter written by them for the Yishuv Yerushalayim, that they were spelling for them, and they're sending them money. All kinds of fantasies. Oh! Now the letter was signed with the Rosh Hashvatim, and this Nosson Shapira brought the letter to Yerushalayim. Now he went back again, a second time, and he took it with him, the letter, and he died there. He died in Italy in a city called Reggio. Now the whole parsha of Bnei Shklov is jumping around this letter. We have to find the letter because the letter is not in Yerushalayim now. We went back to Italy, but we have evidence of Rabbanim that in Yerushalayim that saw it, and later on we have evidence of Rabbanim that left Yerushalayim to Reggio and they also saw it. Okay, so everybody's happy that we have this letter. Okay, now we'll come to, so this is our Gedomas to the parsha of the shlichus of Yisroel Shklov. Yisroel Shklov was I could say the youngest Talmud of the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon had approximately 30 Talmidim. The oldest we could say it was a Mendel Shklover, Menachem Mendel Shklover. The Shklover was a very big city near Vilna, and they both came in the same city. There were rather Mendel was a shtickl Rebbe of Rav Yisroel. Rav Yisroel is famous for his sefer, Pa'as HaShulchan. Pa'as HaShulchan is on the mitzvahs in Yeshivat Yisrael. Yeah. He came here. There's come out no sefer that covers the mitzvah tluyos ba'aretz. So we had a major project to set up our sefer. We have to know how to live in Eretz Yisrael. That's number one. Number two, he was I could say number one in settling down the koilel, the Litvische koilel in Eretz Yisrael. What do I mean, the Litvische koilel? I mentioned a minute ago that the Yishuv is living. There's no economy. The Yishuv is living through shliach that bring in money. Yeah. Now, if you rely on a shliach, it doesn't work. It doesn't work so good. Yeah, the shliach takes for himself money, and not everyone is ready to go out. It's not an easy project, and there's a lot of machlokas going on in this shadarut, this shlichim. So what did the Svardim do? They opened an office, or they opened the office in Turkey, in Istanbul, in Izmir. And that was, they collected the money from the whole world. And all the Eretz Yisrael money came here, and they were in charge of giving out the money in Eretz Yisrael. It's a lot easier. The system is a lot easier. Now the Ashkenazim came. In the first they came drop by drop. So they had to get the money from the Sfardim. But the minute that the Ashkenazim came in big groups, so the Sfardim didn't like it, and the Ashkenazim didn't like it, so they had to open their own pipe. I would call it a pipe. Not an office, a pipe. So the first group of Ashkenazim were the Chassidim. 1727 came to Talmidei HaBashem, and 1737 came Talmidei HaMagid. And in the Vilna Gaon passed away in 1796. And in 1800, the first aliyah of the Talmidei HaGra settled in Tzfas, and that was a Saadia was the manik, and the second one was a few years later. The Mendel Shklov came with a whole group, and the third group, of Yisroel's group. Okay, now Yisroel was a big Talmid Chochem, and also a big Chevra man, that he was able to open an office, yeah, mamash office, and he had a very close connection with another office, Ashkenazic office in Amsterdam. That was the parallel, the Ashkenazic office against VS, the Sephardic office. And I have a whole sefer on this VS, this polemic going on from Amsterdam against Turkey. At the end of the day, Amsterdam won. The office in Amsterdam won, and they're the only office that's sending money from the whole world to Akaponim, from the European world to Eretz Yisrael. Now, Bnei Rechav and Shklover became their best friend, and they were very, very close. I have hundreds of letters. So I lived here over 20 years. Hundreds of letters going back and forth. And these letters are an ocean from information. Okay, now, Yisroel, through the letters, I understand that from the beginning on, he wants to find a Seres HaShvatim. But he waited years, for Askama. From who did he get Askama? Mendel Shklov is passed away already. So the number two after Mendel was a Chaim HaKoyen. He was the Rav of Pinsk, and he settled here in the 1810s. He was the Rav in Tzfas, and in 30 he says for Rav Yisroel, now is the time to bring them. And 31 he sends them out. He sends out the shliach. Okay. So what happened? What happened? Why is he looking for the Seres HaShvatim? What happened now? So now we have to crawl in the kishkes of why the Talmidei HaGra came. So we know there's a big polemic today. What pushed the Talmidei HaGra to come here? Or it was a messianic movement, or not. Okay, I'm going to go with this side that it was a messianic movement. It doesn't have to be a messianic movement. There was messianic ideas in this movement. That's for sure. Now, if we bring Mashiach, now I have on this over 80 pages, and in the Kisvei HaGra, we can see clear that Mashiach is going to come only after the Seres HaShvatim, or people in the Seres HaShvatim are going to settle on Eretz Yisrael. This is called in Kisvei HaGra Leket Shikha Peya. That's all over in the world, and we have to Mikabes in the Chenu Ba'ava Kam V'Saretz, and then only after that Mashiach is going to come. That's number one. Number two, the Rambam says that Mashiach is going to come only after the Sanhedrin, because Sanhedrin could be Mamlich Mashiach and the Kohen. Now Sanhedrin can be only Musmachim. Yeah, we know that Sanhedrin has to be Musmach. Yeah. Musmach means that they're Musmach for Moshe and Yeshua, Ish Mipi Ish. Now we're not clear until when the Smich was going on, but you could say the 7th century until the 9th century. But today, for sure, there's no Masmachim. So Yisroel relied on Eldad Adoni that they're Masmachim. Very interesting. 1,000 years before him, he had evidence that they're Masmachim, and this Smich is going on until today. So if you want to build a Sanhedrin today, we have to bring someone from them to be Masmich, a Chacham here. Oh, now we can have a Bezdin that's Musmach in Eretz Yisrael, and we can bring Mashiach. These are the two major reasons that he wanted. That we're searching for Mashiach. By the way, there was a different Talmidei HaGra that's not known b'chlal, but David the Beis Hillel. He left 6 years before, also in the Middle East, in the Far East, to find the Seres HaShvatim, also to bring Mashiach, and he got lost. Al Kaponim, we don't know where he ended. It's a very funny story we're going with it about it. Okay, that's a parsha by itself.
We by the way, I'll mention here they do have his travels in English. David de Beth Hillel.
Yeah.
It's printed, and in Mirza Shem, I'm hoping to do a series on Jewish travelers, and he would be in there more on the travel. Yeah, he traveled around. It's pretty fascinating.
It's fascinating. By the way, I'll tell you a secret. Okay, now it's not going to be a secret. One of my major sources. My major source is it's called the Pekidim HaMalkelim, the office in Amsterdam, that wrote that they were the pillars of the Yishuv, and they wrote thousands of letters on the Yishuv. I mean, it's an ongoing list of letters. This is my major base of my work, my research on the Yishuv HaYosh. Another base is Lahavdil Bentum Monetare, the missionary system in Yerushalayim. The bishop that came here 1820, 26, his name was John Nicolason, mamish in the same year that the Talmidei HaGra started to come to Yerushalayim, he came from London. He was also from this millennium, this millenariac. They were very frum and very into Tanakh, and they knew Hebrew, and they were pro-Jews. Okay, that's a pasha by itself. And he wrote a diary, and this diary was never published. And I'm sitting on this diary. I'm talking about thousands of pages. 30 years, every day, what's going on in Yerushalayim. This is a gold mine. And he has also a lot of evidence of... So why did I mention it? Because David the Beis Hillel is mentioned a few times by him, and okay, that's it. I'm not going to go further. Okay. Now, what happened now? What happened now that the Chaim Kohen that was very, very choshev said, oh, now is the time. Why not yesterday? Why not 2 weeks ago? It could be that Mamish in this year was the Gzera of the Cantonistim. Could be. And it's only an idea. Then the Cantonistim was a major problem. I have to say, the Cantonistim was a Gzera that came out in the 20s. In the 20s, that the Tsar gave out a Gzera that we have to take the draft from every Jewish community, a number of kids, and that's it. They're going to stay there and for 30 years, and that's mamish shmat. So the a lot of kehillas fell apart, and they were very broken. They couldn't solve the problem. No shtadlonis worked, and there was a lot of problems going on. So it could be that this is this was machria, the Chaim Kohen, that we have to bring Mashiach. There's no other way to solve the problem, only Mashiach. And by the way, the koilel of Vilna, mamash fell apart because there's no money in Litva, in Russia, in these years. So I think that's also a problem. So, Rav Yisroel is going around. Who is ready to go and search the Seres HaShvat? So he finds someone, a Boch, Mipinsk, Mikarlin. He's very talented. He also knows languages. He has to know languages. He's very big. He's very strong. He's a doctor. He knows. He's intelligent. And he gives him a special way, a track how to go through. Go down the Sinai and then to Egypt, and they'll go through the Nile until Khaybar. The Khaybar is Mecca. You have to know a Jew is not allowed to enter Mecca. And from there he could find the Khaybar, and then he should go down until Yemen. Okay. I mentioned before he wrote 7 letters. What are these 7 letters? So 3 letters he wrote for him. He gave the shliach. One is a shadal letter, a pashto letter, to raise money. Where? In Yemen. The second letter is to raise money, not in Yemen, in the Arabian, in India, in Pakistan, with Bukhara, in that area. The third letter is for the Seres HaShvatim. Yeah. I'm representing, who am I representing? I'm representing the Rabbonim of Eretz Yisrael, of Tzvas, and we wanted that you should send someone to us. And then there's another letter for that he gave to the Seres HaShvatim. A third letter. And this is a very interesting letter. That we are Talmidim of the Goyen. And who is the Vilna Goyen? The Vilna Goyen is the biggest Talmid Chacham in the world. Not only in the world, but the biggest Talmid Chacham in the history. because he is after Moshe Rabbeinu. He is after the Tanoim HaMoed. He's the last one, and he goes back to the first one. And a whole series of miles on the ground. And we are walking in his path, and we have to bring the Aseret HaShvatim here. That's the one letter. There's another letter that we have a lot of Sfeikus in Torah. And you have the real Messiah from Moshe, from Yeshua. We have a lot of Sfeikus in Kabul, in Nigle, in Nisda. And so we have a whole list of shilas that you should answer us. And then we need money. There's a lot of problems here. If we want you have a lot of gold and silver, we need money. The seventh letter is an interesting letter. To solve a Guna problem. Now, this letter to solve a Guna problem is for sure a cover up for the whole thing. What does it mean, a cover up? Okay, who signed on the letter? The first letter for Rabbanim from Tzfas, Rav Yisroel of Shklov, and then Avram Duber, the Gaber from the Chassidim, the Manik from the Chassidim, another one, the Manik of the Chassidim from Reisen, and then Chabad. Who don't we have? We don't have a Sfardi. The Sfardim lived there. It could be the Sfardim didn't mix in because they know that this is a very, very delicate issue. Because if the Turkish Empire is going to find out that we're looking for Mashiach, that's it. Yeah, that's it of the whole Geula. You could close the whole Geula. The whole Geula is in danger. Yeah, that's what happened with Shabtai Tzvi. That was the same problem. It could be because they were closer to the system, so they didn't want to mix it. By the way, I mentioned the second signature is Avram Duber. So everybody says it's the Avritcherov, the Bas Ayin. You got it tomorrow is his Yotzeit. Today is very famous, the Bas Ayin on Tzfas. But it's a problem because the letter is signed in 1831, and we know today, Kemat for sure, that he made aliyah to Eretz Yisrael in 1833, 2 years later. So it's a problem. It's a problem. We can't solve the problem. Okay. So the shliach Weistois left in the same tracks that the Yisroel of Shklov asked. Now, how do we know? How do we know where he went and how he went? So over here we have again two sources that they don't get together. One source are the letters of Amsterdam that were in touch a whole time with Rav Yisroel of Shklov. And Yisroel is updating them. Where is the shliach now? And what is he doing? The second source is Rabbi Yankov Sapir. Rabbi Yankov Sapir was a very famous figure in the Talmidei HaGra in Tzfas, and then in Yerushalayim. Was a very, very smart and very talented. And he was a shliach for Yerushalayim in Yemen 20 years later, and he heard from the Yemenite Rabbanim what happened there, and he writes it. He writes it down, and it's a different route. We're not going to go into details. It's a different route in Gans. In Gans, a different route. It's a major problem. Okay. Now, what does the Yisroel of Shklov have shayres with the Amsterdam office? What is their business going on about this shliach? So, this shlichus from Baruch Mipins costs a lot of money. A lot of effort. So where do we have money? Go to the office in Amsterdam. They'll send a few dollars. We have to support him. We have to support his route, staying outside, and we have to support the family. that's staying without a father, without a supporter. So we need money. And they send money. They're very fascinated. They went crazy. Oh, Mashiach's coming. Mashiach's on the way. And so how do they have money? They send out letters to the whole world. And hundreds of letters are going out from Amsterdam to the whole world. We have to bring Mashiach, and we have to find ourselves a Shvatim, and we need money. Yeah, money is number one. But when a year goes by and 2 years go by and nothing's coming up, so he sends them letters. What's going on? So over here, I can have the answers. We have the answers of Rav Yisroel, so we're updated with the shliach is and Nebuch where he ended up. So I have a lot of letters of Gdolei Yisroel that are asking Amsterdam, is this right? And who are they relying on? Where are they going? They're searching. You could search the whole world. You can't finish, you can't start. So they're relying on the letter that was in Italy, and Kiva Eger Yechiel is asking, where's the letter? I want to see the letter. I want to see a copy of the letter. So they don't have no copy. Oh, so what? The Chido writes that I saw it. Oh, the Chido, we can rely on the Chido. The same thing that some Sofer also Goldhaber and the biggest Rabbanim in Germany and in Poland. They're very interested in this parsha, but they want to have a check that's that's not a forgery. The whole story. The end of the day, he came 3 years later. He came on into Yemen, and he was very smart. And the Sultan of Tzana chapped right away that he's smart. He brought him in to his palace. He said, I can't stay here because I swear, I gave a shvur to Rav Yisroel, and I'm not going to stop no place until I find them. Okay, you want to go? Go. But in that time, the Sultan's daughter was very sick, and this shliach was he knew in medicine, and he saved her. It was mamash from Mavas L'chaim. Oh, so he said, whatever you want, I'll give you. He said, I want to go into the Arabian desert. It's very hard to go alone. I need protection. So he gave him protection, and he went with one of the Rabbanim. They're walking and going and searching. And then it came Rosh Hashanah. They need a minyan, so they went back to Tzana. And they said, the Sultan said, you must stay here. You must stay here because they had a revolution there, and they need I need you to stay in my right hand. Okay, the other servants were very jealous, and I'll make it short, and they killed him. They shot at him, and they killed him. And I have a lot of letters going on from Yemen to Tzvas, and this sad end of the story. I found mamish. Before I wrote the article, I found Hespedim on him in Yemen, all kinds of interesting information that we didn't have before. Okay, now what happened later on? Rav Yisroel didn't pick up his hands. He didn't say, "Oh, I would have said it's a simon from heaven that it's not for us," but he didn't go into use, and he sent another shliach. He was already a Sephardi. His name was Amram. He knew good Arabic. He came to Mecca, and over there the Arabs started to chap that he's a Jew, and he ran away at the last second. He came back home, and he even wanted to send a third shliach, and it didn't work out. So I'll finish here. I wrote an article over 160 pages. It's It's very hard to give over all the details. Not even all, even 50% of the details is very hard to give over. But this is you have a frame of the picture what 3 years what was going on, 3.5 years was going on in Tzvas. Also, again, if none of these letters from Amsterdam, we would have we wouldn't have no information.
And a lot of those letters from Amsterdam, the Pekida Marken, were printed by, I think, Yitzchak Ben Tzvi or whatever, years ago. They printed them.
Only 3 years. 3 years were printed. I mean, this is going on for 30 years. The books are still Yad Ben Tzvi, the original books, and I sit there. Now I have a problem because the Sfarim, the boundaries is falling apart already, and they don't let me sit on it. It's a problem. But for years, I'm copying these letters. It's an ocean of information.
And this is just one thing that comes out of it. And this is a fascinating story associated with the Aseres HaShvatim and the Talmidei HaGra, as we discussed.
One small story from a few years from this diamond. It's mamish a diamond.
And, Yechiel, you mentioned you have this massive article. It's really a small book, instead of an article. So I'll put your email address in the show's notes. I think it's goldhaber.y@gmail.com. I'll put it there. Is there, did you ever print this? Do you ever think about printing this as a book or no?
In these days, I'm thinking about giving out another conditon. Why? Because I found Mendel Shklov was a very big makobel. He was a giant in Kabbalah. He had a Talmud, the Bnei Rechav, a very famous makobel. Now, Bnei Rechav had a Talmud, the Bnei Kahana. He's not known. Bnei Kahana was a Rav in Lita, and then he came to Yerushalayim in the 1850s. Now, I found 2 letters from him, messianic letters, mamish messianic letters, and doesn't sign his name. He signs it in a funny way, and I made a cheshbon that it's him. It's major chidushim on the messianic movement in the Talmidei HaGra. So I think maybe it's kedai to put together this article and the letters, because it goes in one direction.
Okay, that would be fascinating. I guess if anyone's interested in helping support that project, give money to it, they should email you or.
It will be a big help for me.
Well, they could email me also if anyone's interested in that, supporting Yechiel's work. And I'll mention the first condition was you talked about the Cherem or no Cherem in Spain and the Titanic, and this would be another volume. And this is really fascinating. But you have this article. We can email you, email me. You have this article about the Aseres HaShvatim.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and as it relates to Bnei Moshe and Rav Yisroel of Shklov, it's really like a fascinating parsha. And so hopefully the listeners were able to learn something else about associated with the Aseres HaShvatim in the 19th century. Right. And thank you very much for joining me once again. And I'll put your email address in the show's notes, goldhaber.y@gmail.com. Anyone can email you with any questions. They can reach out to me. They want to, and also, of course, I'll mention if anyone is in, you mentioned a couple times here, that's because you're in Yerushalayim in Eretz Yisrael. If any listeners are ever looking for an expert tour guide, they should reach out to you in Eretz Yisrael. And they are, again, they could ask me, and I'm happy to facilitate with your Yechiel. But
my pleasure.
Absolutely. So, and they should check out all your different writings, and we've discussed some of them in the past. So thank you.
Thank you
very much for joining me once again.
All the best. Kol tov. Bye-bye.